What's going on? David Paige here. Today I'm going to show you how I save a ton of time when recording live performances by using templates in Logic Pro. Let's check it out. A couple of pieces that I want to mention here is that number one, we are bringing our own mixer to every show. And so all of the input is coming into our mixer first, and then via a USB cable, it's coming out of the mixer and into my computer so that I can separate all of the tracks and record into Logic. The other piece that I want to make sure that I mention is that we are bringing the same microphones to every single show. It doesn't necessarily matter which microphones you use, but it does matter that you use the same ones if you want consistency. That way the input volume, that way the tone is going to be the same, and you'll know how to mix them every single time. Just for reference, the microphones that we use for kick drum, we are using the Sennheiser 902. For the snare and the toms, we are using the Sennheiser 604s. I like those because they clip really easily onto the drums, and we can actually set that up before we even get on stage. For the overheads, we are using Sennheiser 914s, and I'll use a stereo bar so that I can either put them in an X pattern or a Y pattern and make sure that I get all of the cymbals and any overhead sounds from the drums. For Tim's lead guitar, we're using the Sennheiser E609, and we're generally hanging that over the front of his cab and taping the microphone in the same place every single time. For both bass and my rhythm guitar, we're both using Kempers, so we're just taking a direct audio XLR right out of the back of the Kemper and into the mixer. For keyboards, we're actually bringing one of these Behringer DI boxes, and because we're using the same one every single time, it helps with that consistency. And for vocals, Stephanie and I are using Sennheiser 935s, and Adam and Tim are using Sennheiser 835s. You can save a ton of time by setting up your session in Logic Pro before the gig. And that way you have all your tracks set, and you can actually do a lot of the mixing ahead of time, which will save you a lot of time. So let me show you what I do. I'm gonna open up Logic Pro. All right, so I'm gonna actually go into New Project here and select Empty Project to create a brand new template. I'm not currently connected to my mixer, and so I'm going to show you the first part right now, and then I'm going to fast forward to me being at a performance when I am connected to my mixer, and I will show you the second part then. So the first step is that we're going to need to create the number of tracks that we need in order to create the template that we want. In the student body, we're currently using 16 tracks. Click Create or hit Return. Then I'm going to name these in the order that we have them on our mixer. So the first one is David Vocal. And I'm actually going to skip these for just a moment. That will be Stephanie Vocal, Adam Vocal, Tim Vocal. And I'll show you why I'm skipping those in just a moment. This here will be keys, then David guitar, acoustic guitar, which we don't need all the time, Tim guitar, bass, talkback mic, kick, snare, rack tom, floor tom, overhead left, and overhead right. And now that each of these tracks are in place, I'm going to do the majority of the mixing by adding all of the effects to each track right now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go into this library, and for vocal I'm going to choose a certain patch that I really like here. I like the tracking vocal. I'm going to change this here to Melodyne, and then there's a compression thing in here that I actually like a little bit better than the normal one. These are all choices that you can make with your own mix and your own band, however your project needs it. make it to the way that you like it. But I like this vocal hard compression here. And once I have that, I'm actually going to, I'm going to delete 2, 3, and 4. I'm going to copy, copy, copy. And now I have David, Stephanie, Adam, and Tim. One thing that we're going to need to do is a little bit of mixing just to kind of get things moving in the right direction. Whenever we watch the video, Tim is all the way to the right. So I'm going to put Tim's vocal at about, call it 45. Adam's vocal is going to be at about 30. And then usually lead vocal is either myself or Stephanie. And depending on which one's singing lead and which one is standing to the left, I will either shift myself over or shift Stephanie over. But by doing this with these 4 vocals, I already have the mix mostly set for them. All right. Now for my guitar, I'm all the way to the left, and then Tim is all the way to the right. All right, and then a couple of other things that I'm going to add here. I'm going to add on the guitar, go in here and add a channel EQ. I'm going to do this really simple. I'm going to go in and do, here, picked electric guitar. That works great. And I'll add a compression as well. For that, same thing, I'm just going to go in and add like a guitar compression. So I'll look under guitars. Here's electric guitar. That's great. If any adjustments need to be made later, this is something that's super easy to do. Now, I'm actually just going to do this. And now, by copying and pasting, it just made it so that I don't have to go in and add that channel EQ or that compressor a second time. And for the acoustic guitar, I'm going to go in and select an acoustic guitar. I personally really like this natural strum sound. I'm going to go with the channel EQ, make sure it's a nice acoustic guitar sound. Go with just acoustic guitar, that's fine. And then compression, I'm going to go in and grab an acoustic guitar compression. Perfect. And that's all I'm really going to do for the acoustic guitar. Bass, we're going to do the same thing, add a little channel EQ to that. Guitar, we're looking at he plays an electric bass, so we'll go with electric bass EQ. And we'll do another plugin of compression. And for the compression, we will look for something about, bass, live bass. This works. Platinum bass, rock bass. There we go. We'll add a rock bass compression to that. And same thing for like kick. I'm gonna go into here, drums, kick. I'm gonna go with a rock kick set. And now that's added channel EQ and compression. I like to go in and just do a little bit of tweaking to these just to kind of give it a little bit more of what I'm looking for. We're looking at rock kick drum. There we go. And same thing with here, rock kick drum compression, rock kick. Great. Snare, we're gonna do that same exact thing. Snare, I'm looking at a rock snare. Channel EQ, set that up for a rock snare drum. And the compression also for a rock snare. We'll go with rock snare top because the microphone that we always put is on top. Sometimes you might see, especially more in a studio setting, you might see a microphone pointed at the bottom of the snare as well. But because we're not running that, I'm gonna choose rock snare top. And then rack tom, gonna look under drums again. Under toms, we've got some rock toms for the rack tom. Go in here, again, drums, and you've got so many options of what you can do. It looks like there is a floor and a high tom EQ. I'm gonna choose the high tom because I'm doing the rack tom here. And compression, you're going to go into drums again and look for, I'm gonna go with tom comp. See how that goes. And then I'm actually going to delete this one. Just do a copy this here, this button here. Let's see if I can get it to show me. There we go. It's gonna create a new track with duplicate settings. So now I've got that rack tom. Now I've got another rack tom. It's the same thing that I used up here with the vocals and the same thing I used with the guitars. And so because this is now the floor tom, gonna go in and change from the channel EQ that said high to the one that says floor. Overhead left, overhead right, we're gonna have the same kind of thing go on. So I'm just gonna do overhead left first. And for overhead left, we're gonna go drums and percussion, overheads, rock overheads. Look at the channel EQ, drums, and let's see what it says for overheads. We've got overhead mic EQ. That looks pretty good. Yeah, I'm gonna go with that, overhead mic EQ. And I am going to do the compression here, drums, rock overheads, perfect. And then I'm gonna take this and create a duplicate track with the same settings. This is now our overhead right. I'm gonna put that all the way to audience left, drummer right, and then left, we'll go audience right, drummer left. Floor tom, that is the furthest over this direction, so I'm gonna move that to about 40. And move the rack tom to about 20. Whenever I mix, I like to mix to the audience perspective, so when you see a drummer move across their toms, they're moving to your left, the drummer's right. That's why I'm gonna mix it this way. Now that I have all of the tracks set up and ready to go within Logic, one thing that we will notice is as we go down through each track, the input over here is not going to be correct because currently we are not connected to the mixer. So you will see that it's input 1, and as I go down, input 1, input 1, input 1. Keys has input 2. I think all of the rest of these tracks are gonna have input number 2 over there. And what these need to say are input 1 for David vocal, input 2 for Stephanie vocal, input 3 for Adam, and so on and so forth. Now right now, if I go to Adam's vocal, I won't be able to select anything past input 1 or input 2. So right now what I need to do is wait until I'm set up at a show and I have my mixer connected to my laptop. So for right now, I'm gonna go up here to File. I'm gonna go down to Save as Template. And just so you know where this is saving, under Music, Audio Music Apps, Project Templates. And so I am going to call this one TSB YouTube Tutorial. And now I'm going to fast forward to us at a show. All right, the student body is now at Hinsdale. Uniquely Thursdays. We're playing here today. I'm going to show you how we set up the last part of the templates by connecting the mixer to my computer. Alright, so the first thing that we're going to do here is open up Logic, and we're going to open a brand new session using the template we just created. So here we go. Open Logic Pro. And I'm going to start a new session. Instead of opening a new project here, I'm going to go down to where it says My Templates. And right here you'll see the TSB YouTube tutorial. That's the one that we created last time. We're going to open that, choose. And so here's what we're going to see. So check it out. We've got input number 1, David Vocal. Right here you'll see input 1. Now we have access to all 16, 18 inputs. There's 16 XLR inputs, and there's 2 technically kind of a stereo joined, paired quarter-inch input, but we don't really use those. So here we go. I'm going to go 1, input 2, input 3, and I've got to go all the way down and add all these inputs. Alright, now that we've got all of our inputs set up, I'm going to go back into File, Save as Template, and all I have to do is just click this YouTube tutorial. I'm just going to save it right over the other one, and now anytime that I open it, I'll have all of my inputs ready to go. Now the last thing to do is select all my tracks. I'm going to arm them by pressing this R button right here. Start the recording. And press R on my keyboard, and off we go. If you want to find out a little bit more information about how we use our mixer, the Behringer XR18, in order to record or to use it for mixing our in-ear monitors, I'm going to post the links to those videos in the description below.